Hi, this is the lesson number 4th in this series of British literature. And as we are studying Anglo-Saxon literature, and we are just discussing about the poetry. And earlier we discussed in brief about the heroic poetry, and now we shall discuss some more about the lyrical poetry. And you may not find these lessons to be that interesting, but you can skip these lessons if you wish. But I thought that why not to discuss about them in brief, because if anything resonate you, if any content or any poetry, you may go deep into that will benefit you. Second, if I am talking just about the surface level things of any particular poetry, in future anywhere in any exams might possibility there is that something reflects your mind and you may be able to solve that question. So whatever possible, you can go with that. The Wanderer is the first lyrical poetry we shall discuss. It is written in 115 lines, and it is about old man. And in youth, he lost his friends, his family members. They were all killed in a battle, and he talks about his youth and he recall all those the uh, good moments of his life. And further he gives the message that there should be no battle, it should be peace all the way in the life, because matters cannot be solved with the battles, and matters can be resolved with the talks only. And he also recalled those days when he used to serve his master, his king, and he received precious gifts from his comrades or friends, and from his lord as well. And in the field, as I have told you, that he lost so many of his kinsmen and even friends and uh, friends. And then he was also talking about his exile from the homeland, because when they lost the battle, not only his relatives and friends, kith or kin, they died, but they were also forced to, whoever were alive like him, they were forced to leave that land, and he was thinking of his homeland. So that is all about Wanderer. Wanderer, by the name, it is suggested that he was just wandering. He had no place. The next we have, that is Seafarer. Seafarer. So sea, by the name, it is suggested, it talks about the sea life, wintry sea life. An old man, and he is seafarer, means he is living there, and he is comparing the life at sea and also the life at the land, means when the someone is surrounded by his kinsmen and he is living in a palace. And then he compares both these lives, and he prefers that the life at the sea is worth living, and this is worth enjoying. He describes his anxious feelings and cold wetness of the atmosphere, and also he talks about his experiences in the voyage when he took to the sea. And further he compares the life that with the land, that how it is different, means what are the advantages of living the sea life. This is main point. And he says that it is a bit hard to live there, but he still prefers that if one has to choose between these two lives, and then he would definitely go for the life at sea. Ezra Pound, the famous poet, American poet, and he translated Seafarer into English. And about this poem, it is also said that this poem ends with this word "Amen," as most of the Christians used to you can see that when they are reciting any prayer, and when the prayer ends, they repeat the word Amen. So it ends with the word Amen. The next we have, that is the wife's lament or the wife's complaint, and this is an elegy. And elegy means a sad poem when someone is remembering about his past or expressing his sorrows. So similar kind of thing you can say. And this is written in 53 lines, and it is about a woman whose husband has left her, and maybe he was exiled, or maybe he has voluntarily left her. She decides to find him, and but her plans are just thwarted by the kinsmen of her husband, means his in relation persons, maybe brothers or cousins. She had nothing, but she had only sorrows, and she was just complaining all the way about her missing husband. This is just a short poem in 53 lines, Wife's Lament. The next is Dior's Lament. Earlier was the wife's lament, and now it's Dior's lament. Name Dior. He was a scope. Scope, the same person who is singing folklores and songs in the streets and in the palaces. So to this poem there was no name earlier, and then the name by Dior, the title character comes, and then it was named as Dior's Lament. And this poem is in 42 lines, and in Old English there were only two poems which had refrain. Refrain means by the word you can take the meaning repeat. But in poetry, what is refrain? When you say a poem tends to have a refrain, means there are repetition of lines, especially the same line is repeated or same phrase is repeated at the end of every stanza. That is called refrain. So there are two poems surviving in Anglo-Saxon period which had refrain. One is Dior's Lament, and other is Wolf and Advisor, or however you may pronounce this name, Advisor, Wolf and Advisor. So for the moment we are talking about Dior's Lament. It is about that scope Dior, and he was replaced by another scope in the court. The master replaced him, and the new scope came, and he was deprived of his services and his land and favor, everything. And he was banished from his house or his place, and he was later complaining. He was singing and complaining that why it happened to him, and he was just thinking about the world of his sorrows. And the line it contained, that is very famous line, this too shall pass. This too shall pass is used as a refrain after the end of or at the end of every stanza. And one more thing, that he recalled, that singer, that scope, recalled 5 examples of various figures from Germanic legends. So in this poem, he talks about 5 legendary figures, and the main thing he says in this poem, that whatever the sorrows we have in our life, these will pass eventually. So he says that this too shall pass. And the next one we have, that is husband's message. This poem too finds its place in the Exeter book. Exeter book I mentioned earlier, that contains the collection of old books, and that was Exeter book was written somewhere around in 10th century. So in that book we have this poem, Husband's Message, and it contains almost 53 lines, and the poem takes place when the war is over and the man is forced to leave his homeland. And the speaker in this poem is a wooden staff. Staff means a stick, you can say, lakdi ka koi tukda. On that staff, husband has written a message for his wife. So the speaker, as the narrator of the poem or the main uh, wooden staff, is saying everything. The wooden staff is telling us everything about husband and his past life and his wife. So that exiled husband is waiting for his wife. Now that husband has so much money, wealth, everything he has, and he is just waiting. And this staff is also telling about itself, that staff is feeling worth of its life. Why? Because that stick grew just near sea in the form of a sapling, and then some words were carved on it by the that husband, and that really gave a meaning to its life. And that's all about this poem. That the main thing is that if someone asks you that name that poem where a sapling or a staff or stick is the speaker, and that is taking the message of a husband uh, to his wife, and then the name of that poem is the husband's message. So these were the major lyric poetries like The Wanderers, The Seafarer, Wife's Lament, Dior's Lament, and Husband's Lament. There is not something special to remember about these poems, but if something strike your mind that the content seems to be interesting, then you may go to Google and find these poems and read their plot and storyline in detail. But for the moment, I believe that this is enough. And then further, we shall talk about the Christian poetry that exists during the period of Anglo-Saxons. So, thanks very much for watching this video, and I hope that you must be liking the content that I'm providing you, and hope for the best that I may be able to tell you. So, thanks.